You're standing in a field. It's 40,000 years ago. Ahead of you, something moves through the tree line. You hear it before you see it, a sound like the earth itself shifting. Then it steps into the open. A woolly mammoth, 4 meters tall, 6 tons of muscle, bone, and tusk, each tusk longer than your entire body. It could kill you without noticing. A single swing of its head and you're gone. You have no metal, no gunpowder, no trap already set. What you have is a wooden spear, 4 other humans standing beside you, and a plan. And somehow, that's enough. Not just enough to survive, enough to win. This is the story of how ancient humans hunted the largest, most dangerous animals that ever walked the earth. And the weapons they used weren't what you think. Let's start with what they were up against. The megafauna of the Pleistocene epoch weren't just big, they were catastrophically dangerous. The woolly mammoth weighed up to 6 tons and could charge at 25 miles per hour. The Irish elk carried antlers spanning 12 feet across. The cave bear stood 11 feet tall and weighed over 2,000 pounds. The giant ground sloth was the size of an elephant and had claws 8 inches long. These weren't prey animals in any modern sense. They were walking fortresses. And ancient humans, with no metal, no horses, no wheels, decided to hunt them anyway.
The first weapon was fire. Not defensively, the way most people imagine, a campfire keeping predators at bay. Offensively. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites across Europe and Africa shows that ancient humans used controlled fire to drive entire herds of large animals. They would set fire strategically, upwind of a herd, then position hunters at a predetermined choke point. The animals panicked. They ran in the only direction the fire wasn't, directly toward the humans waiting for them. At Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump in Alberta, Canada, archaeologists found bone beds containing the remains of thousands of animals at the base of a cliff. The earliest layers date back nearly 6,000 years. The method was simple and devastating. Drive the herd to the edge. The animals at the back push the ones at the front. The ones at the front go over. You didn't need to overpower the animal. You needed to control its direction. Fire gave you that. The second weapon changed everything. In 1995, archaeologists excavating a coal mine in Schoningen, Germany, found something that rewrote the timeline of human sophistication. 8 wooden throwing spears, buried in the remains of more than 50 butchered horses. The spears dated to 300,000 years ago. They were between 6 and 9 feet long, made from spruce wood, sharpened at both ends, and weighted toward the front third. Exactly like a modern javelin. Whoever made these understood aerodynamics. They understood balance. They understood that a weapon you throw from 30 feet away is infinitely safer than one you have to drive into something by hand. This is the detail that gets overlooked. The spear didn't just give ancient humans a weapon, it gave them distance. And distance changed the equation entirely. A cave bear can't charge something it can't reach. A mammoth can't trample a threat that's already 40 feet away reloading. The throwing spear turned a physical contest into a tactical one. And physically, ancient humans were always going to lose. Tactically, they were almost impossible to beat.
Then came the atlatl, a spear-throwing device, essentially a lever that extended the hunter's arm and dramatically amplified throwing force. Atlatls appear in the archaeological record around 30,000 years ago across Europe, Africa, and later the Americas. Using one, a human could launch a spear with the force of a compound bow, roughly 60 to 90 miles per hour, accurate to distances of over 100 feet. In 2017, experimental archaeologist Corey Brees demonstrated that a trained atlatl user could drive a spear clean through half an inch of steel plate. The megafauna didn't evolve a defense against projectile weapons. Nothing did, because nothing in the history of life on Earth had ever thrown things at them before. But the weapon that most people never think about was the trap. Ancient humans were exceptional environmental engineers. They read landscapes the way modern generals read maps. At Leringen in Germany,
Archaeologists found a 125,000-year-old wooden spear lodged between the ribs of a straight-tusked elephant. The elephant was in a swampy area. It hadn't wandered there accidentally. Evidence suggests it was driven there, deliberately, into ground too soft for it to maneuver, where its size became a liability instead of an advantage. Ancient humans understood something modern hunters still use. A 6-ton animal in open ground is terrifying. A 6-ton animal stuck in a bog, unable to turn, unable to charge, is just a food source. They didn't fight the mammoth's strengths. They engineered situations that neutralized them. Here's where the skeptics raise a fair point. Some researchers argue that climate change, not human hunting, was primarily responsible for megafauna extinction. And they're right that climate was a factor. But the timing is hard to ignore. In Africa, where humans and megafauna co-evolved over millions of years, large animals survived. They had time to develop wariness of human hunters. But in Europe, Australia, and the Americas, the pattern is consistent. Humans arrived. Within a few thousand years, the large animals were gone. Not all of them. The ones that survived were the ones that learned fast enough to fear us.
And then there's the evidence that cuts through all the debate: the kill sites. At Clovis sites across North America, archaeologists have found mammoth and mastodon bones with spear points still embedded in them. At Boxgrove in England, 500,000-year-old horse bones show precise cut marks from stone tools, evidence of systematic butchering by early humans who clearly knew what they were doing. At La Brea in Los Angeles, the tar pits contain the remains of thousands of Pleistocene animals alongside human artifacts. Ancient humans weren't occasionally stumbling into megafauna. They were specifically, repeatedly, and successfully hunting them. But here is the part that deserves to be said plainly. None of these weapons worked alone. A spear in the hands of one person against a woolly mammoth is a way to die. A coordinated group of 5 hunters with assigned roles, a pre-selected kill site, a fire line driving the animal toward them, and atlatls that could penetrate 2 inches of hide from 80 feet away, that is something entirely different. The real weapon was the plan. And the plan required language. It required memory. It required the ability to communicate not just what was happening right now, but what was going to happen, where everyone needed to be, and what to do when things went wrong. No other species on Earth was doing this. Wolves hunt in packs by instinct. Ancient humans hunted in teams by design. Go back to that field. The mammoth is still there, 4 meters tall, 6 tons, tusks longer than your body. But now you understand what you're actually looking at from its perspective. 5 hairless, physically unimpressive animals standing at the tree line. No claws, no fangs, slow runners. And yet something about them is wrong. They're not running. They're not scattered. They're still. They're watching. And somewhere behind the mammoth, something is burning.
The mammoth didn't stand a chance. Not because ancient humans were stronger, because they were the only species on Earth that could look at something 6 times their size and think, here is how we win.